So I will present a little bit on this soil monitoring law and what I know, so to say, about it currently. As you know, this directive, or what is usually called the soil monitoring law, was proposed by the EU Commission in 2023, and then there's been a process with reviews and also that the Parliament and the Council have also been looking into this and been presenting revised versions. And during the spring, there has been this trilogue negotiations, and it's slowly approaching some kind of final decision now. During the summer, I got the opportunity to review the Swedish translation of this text, and also then I also had the English version. So that means that it must be pretty close to final. I couldn't share that document with you all, but I sent the annexes, which is very interesting when it comes to the what is actually being measured and sampled. Here's a more detailed process. And preceding the actual proposal from the Commission was the decision of the EU soil strategy and some public consultations. And then it's been some rounds in the Parliament and the Council, as I said, and then last fall and during the spring there were these 3 trilogues, which are this meeting between the Commission, Parliament, and the Council. And there was a provisional agreement in May, and by the Council, and then by this ENVI, it was a provisional agreement this summer. But the final, so to say, the final decision and vote in the Parliament, it is now scheduled till October, perhaps November this fall. So that's where we are. I don't know, some of you have probably been looking into this original proposal and these alternative versions, and there's been some debate, a scientific debate about this also. So I will try to, when I can, to kind of I will summarize. I mean, what is in this current version that I've seen, and also try to compare it to the what has been suggested before. Anyway, so the overall aim, I mean, it is to improve soil health and maintain healthy soils, and achieve in the long term healthy soils by 2050. And it also provides a measurable definition of soil health. And an important thing, as you will see, is that the member states, they are required to have monitoring frameworks, and also with a certain criteria for how precise the results or outcomes should be. So this framework should regularly measure the soil health over time, this directive also provides non-legally binding targets for soil health by 2050. So it is perhaps not as strict as was originally intended. So I think it has been kind of a little bit changed a little bit on the way. So when it comes to soil health, the definition is stated here. You can just read. And one key aspect is that the soil should provide ecosystem services. And healthy soils is also defined here. And it refers to chemical, biological, and physical conditions of the soil that in turn can provide these ecosystem services. and it relates to nutrient cycling, carbon storage, etc. So that's like overarching definitions. And also this directive, it is in line with a number of other strategies and action plans that has been, I mean, overall it's part of this European Green Deal, and it relates to the biodiversity strategy, farm to fork strategy, zero pollution action plan, and climate adaptation strategy, and not the least the EU soil strategy for 2030 that was decided in 2021, which underlines the importance of soils for societies and people and nature and so on. The directive, it has three areas. The first and perhaps the main area, that is concerning monitoring and assessment of soil health. The second part, it is referring to soil resilience. And for those of you who read the previous versions, the second point used to be sustainable soil management practices, but this has been changed, and the ambition level has been kind of lowered when it comes to this, as you will see. Finally, there's a part on the management of contaminated sites, which I will not mention very much about because I don't think it really concerns our inventories and so on. Some key.
I can see that Lisa has her hand raised. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just wondering if we might have a copy of your presentation afterwards.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
That's all. Thank you.
Of course, this is. I mean, it's not final, so. But yes, you can have it. Some key definitions in the directive that are important to know, and also these are kind of the final definitions because there's been alternatives on the way. First, the law, it refers to soil districts, and it is the governable units that are to be used for administrative purposes, and they can be one or more per member state, and they are governed by some kind of a authority. Then there are soil units, and they are homogeneous areas used for monitoring and reporting. So they should be they should be the basis for how to set threshold values and so on for different descriptors, and also in order to design and evaluate the monitoring framework. In the directive text, it says it should be based on soil regions, this EU map 1 to 5 million, which I think was the one that Alexi presented yesterday in this study that was done in Finland. Further, it should use land use categories, and then optionally climate and environmental zones. With this EU map, it sounds a little bit worrying since, this was basically what Alexis said. I mean, it has some obvious weaknesses, these soil regions, but it says also that you could use more detailed data. And with the land use, as I understand, and the interpretation must be that if you have a soil region, that could be a discrete spatial unit, but within that unit you can have different land use categories, which do not have to be outlined explicitly like in a polygon, because we have this challenge, of course, with soils with a spatial variation, that you cannot describe the soils 100% in a vector map. Then we have the soil descriptors, and these are the variables that are going to be measured. So parameters or variables describing physical, chemical, and biological characteristics of soil health. Then it is the soil health assessment, which is the actual evaluation based on the measurements and also on criteria, as I will come back to. The descriptors or variables, parameters, whatever you call it, they need to, or they are related to different aspects of soil degradation, and they are listed here. So it's salinization, erosion, loss of organic matter, compaction, etc. And finally, loss of soil biodiversity. So each of these have descriptors related to them. Now I'm going to go through these first two parts of the directive, starting with the monitoring and assessment of soil health, which is the main part of the directive. Here it states that member states shall establish appropriate monitoring frameworks or inventories, and the number and location of the sampling points should represent the variability of the chosen soil descriptors within the soil units. So the soil units should be functional in that they should kind of, they should control variation in the soil descriptors, so to say. And there are criteria for the sampling intensity relating to this maximum error or CV of 5% for the different descriptors. And this is further developed in the annex. The member states, they should monitor soil health in each soil unit. But when it comes to the soil sealing and soil removal, which is also part of this directive, it is on the soil district level, so it can be for the whole country only. And I think this soil sealing and soil removal, this is not something that our inventories will be used. So I think it's will more be based on remote sensing techniques. In one point, it states that the monitoring framework shall build on existing monitoring frameworks at national level and union level, including, where appropriate, also LUCAS. So this states that we can use our existing monitoring frameworks. In the previous versions, I mean, it was very much written in the context of countries starting up a dedicated monitoring framework or inventory for this specific purpose. And you were wondering if you have an inventory, I mean, if you're going to kind of ditch that and start all over again, but it seemed to be okay to go on. But they have to be, I think I'll come back to this, they need to fulfill these criteria, of course, that are stated in the directive. The soil descriptors and the criteria for healthy soils are described in one part. So the soil health should be assessed with respect to all of these different aspects of soil degradation, which means this long list of descriptors. And when it comes to the criteria for healthy soils, the directive now states and refers to non-binding sustainable target levels. And they are threshold values that are being specified in the directive in the annexes. And they can either be on EU level in the so-called Part A, or at the national level in the Part B. But they are non-binding, which is interesting. I'm not 100% sure what it means, but it's less strict, I think, compared to earlier versions. In addition, there are also so-called operational trigger values, and this will facilitate some kind of warning system that should make countries initiate different activities and measures to achieve soil health and resilience. So these should be defined for each soil descriptor, and there should be intervals that should indicate if you have a moderate condition or a poor condition of your soils. This is like a warning system that something needs to be done. So just briefly, compared to previous versions, originally there was this one out, all out principle when it came to the descriptors and the description and definition of soil health. So if one of the descriptors was not fulfilled, you did not have a healthy soil, and you had to reach healthy soils. So it was much stricter. In one of the alternative versions, I think from the council, they proposed some kind of classes that you should classify your soils in different soil health classes. But this is like an alternative method for soil health evaluation or assessment compared to previously. When it comes to soil contaminants, I'm not talking about that, but there's also some kind of indicated list of soil contaminants with potential risk for threatening soil health that should be developed by the member states in coordination with the EU. So it can vary, I think, depending on countries. All right. Further, when it comes to the measurements and inventories and the methodologies about this, it is in the Nexus. It's described these principles for design and location of sampling points, both when it comes to this criteria of precision, this coefficient of variation of 5%, but also on optimal location according to this Bethel algorithm. Of course, if you have an existing network, you have to kind of show in some alternative way that you fulfill the precision. Also, if the countries, member states, don't have either existing inventories or don't have the capacity to develop them, the Commission may provide support in field sampling and soil analysis, which I guess will be like some kind of extended Lucas. I mean, one question that I think many asked when looking at this from the beginning was that some of these descriptors or some of these areas of soil degradation, aspects of soil degradation, I mean, they were not really relevant. Salinization was one obvious one. But now it states that for salinization, this descriptor, the electrical conductivity, can be excluded provided that you give a good explanation. Further, when it comes to the loss of soil biodiversity, and this is a little bit strange, I think, it says that it should be measured on at least 5% of the total number of sampling points, which I find, particularly when it comes to this metabarcode and DNA-based methods, it is a very low number. Then yeah, and this is what I said, the existing national and subnational soil monitoring networks may be used if they are in accordance with the annex or what the directive states. This last point is a very important one, because if you have existing inventories and you do measurements, you sample intensely enough, but you measure, for example, base cations with another extraction media than is stated as a methodology in the directive, it is okay to continue to use this method, provided that there are validated transfer functions available. And I know that in this current soil mission call, I mean, there are projects focusing on this transfer functions, for example. So this will probably be an area for research the coming years. Okay, when it comes to analysis in the lab, they must have some quality management system practiced in their work, and they must participate in some kind of ring test or proficiency testing programs. The measurements by these soil inventories, they should be, according to the directive, performed every 6 years. Oh, now it sounds a lot. Could someone perhaps close their microphone? Anyway, I hear a lot of noise, but maybe it's okay for you in the room, so I will continue. So this 6-year interval is also something that you wonder a little bit about. I mean, if you have an existing inventory, if this has to be changed when it comes to the inventory intervals according to this, or if you can. I mean, if you have a running inventory, you can of course report statistic basically any year based on the last whatever number of years. So this has to be figured out a little bit more. The requirements of soil archiving and also a subset of samples may be transferred to the EU Commission. This was more of a demand in previous versions. Okay, when it comes to the actual assessment, basically it says that good conditions are achieved when the non-binding sustainable target level is met. And this one out, all out principle is abandoned. So this was the first part about the measurements. And then this second part, I will mention this just briefly, about soil resilience. This is the one that used to be sustainable soil management practices. And it used to have rather strict demands on that the country should outline, I mean, some kind of good practice guidance when it comes to soil management practices. But I think this was criticized a lot. So in this version, the focus is instead on more to work more less strict, more soft, so to say, with this with management, with getting management into better practice. It's focusing on encouraging and supporting landowners, land managers, the access of science-based advice, information and training activities, also capacity building, and promote awareness of good practices that improve soil health and research and innovation. So it's it is, and there are no strict, there are no strict criteria that should be fulfilled in this area. When it comes to the time plan, I have not seen any updated time plan. So this is the original one, and the years are from the year 0 here is entry into force. So there's a period of establishing the frameworks, etc. And then the first soil measurement should be 3 years after the decision. And then you have the soil health assessment here. Should be like 5 years after decision, etc. So it's a rather rapid process, but still some years before for starting up things. When it comes to the annexes, I mean, they are very important and contains most of these hard criterias. The first one, it involves the soil descriptors and the criteria for healthy soils at the union level in Part A and member states in Part B, and then it states which ones are descriptors without criteria. And then in the second annex, the methodologies when it concerns soil sampling and the design of the survey are included. And the methods descriptions when it comes to, for example, how to measure pH, how to measure carbon, etc. My idea was that we should have like a brief group discussion about around these annexes, but I think it's not in the schedule right now, so maybe I should just switch to open this annex. Now I got a lot of noise again.
Strange. Okay.
Just a second here. Can you see something?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll try to avoid scrolling because it's usually lagging a lot. Okay, so just briefly going through these descriptors. It is electric conductivity, carbon concentration, and the criteria here for carbon. It is still including this sock to clay ratio, which has been quite heavily criticized, in particular for forest soil. I think we had Raisa presenting something about this previously. But you can adapt this more locally. There's also compaction, measuring bulk density, which is perhaps an important addition. It is extractable phosphorus, and then the erosion rate is kind of special. There are a bunch of heavy metals. And you see here that on the right-hand side, it describes if you can exclude, and for example, soil erosion, badlands and natural areas can be accepted from the reporting. Then you have the loss of soil organic carbon stocks, which has been added compared to the original version. And this is in line with the LULUCF reporting, which is good, I think. Yeah, that was under Part B with the national criteria. And then under part C, you have the descriptors without criteria, and here you have nutrients, acidification, compaction. And finally, you have loss of soil biodiversity. And here, the primary method that is being decided is DNA in the harmful fungi and bacteria, which is very interesting and good, since I'm good that we put so much focus on this. And then there are another bunch of optional descriptors for soil biodiversity. Yeah, I think I will end there. As I said, in this part here, after the contamination, etc., there are also the methodologies for the analysis, and here it is the text about the determination of sampling points, the criteria, and the field sample survey. All right.
Do we have some questions for someone? Yeah, Alexi? Can you see anyone?
The sound is rather poor.
Okay. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Nej, behöver jag muta?
Is the mic, is it this?
Yes,
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah, you was wondering about soil biodiversity and this. Can you hear me?
Something happened to the mic. It used to be good, but now there's a kind of distortion. Oh. But Christine is still, both of them are still in the meeting.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay.
Very good.
Yeah, you mentioned this 5% for the soil biodiversity, that the 5% of the sample plots should be monitored for that. And then you said that the eDNA, that could be done in a larger network. But then when you showed these kind of potential other soil biodiversity metrics, then you had like things like soil fauna, things like that. And if you do those with the traditional methods, then that's pretty time consuming. So I'm just wondering, is that 5%? Could it be could it be because of that, or?
Yeah, that is most likely, but since where is it refers to those 5% of the sampling plots. I mean, it is general for the loss of soil biodiversity, but maybe it's like at least 5%.
Yeah.
Because you're right. I mean, with many of those methods, I mean, they're not realistic to do on more than that.
Yeah, so maybe one can do always more if they have resources and.
Yeah.
But where did they get this 5%? Why that number?
It's the first time I've seen it. It does not. I cannot remember that. I haven't seen it in previous versions. And in the previous version, it was this potential respiration, or basic respiration, that was the compulsory descriptor or variable. But that was also very criticized, so it was removed.
Another question.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks, Johan. That was very informative. Just wondering if there was any discussion on the target depth.
if there's been discussion on this target levels,
Yeah.
operational target levels. I mean, I only seen the document really. I haven't been involved like in discussions about this, and I didn't. I think that the levels or thresholds are. I haven't checked this, but it's possible that they are the same as previously, only that they call it operational. They changed name for it, and it's non-binding target values instead.
Depths you have to collect the soil samples depends on each country.
Could you repeat? I didn't hear that.
No.
Yeah, sorry. You hear me?
Yep.
No, I think. Just some kind of a disconnection thing. Yeah. No, no, he took it. Do you hear us now, Johan?
Yeah, I can hear now.
Okay. Okay.
No, just you wanted to check the soil depths, which depths each country is supposed to collect.
It is the uppermost 30 centimeter of the mineral soil.
Right.
And in addition, if there is an organic forest or organic topsoil or forest floor, that should be collected separately.
Right.
What is not clear to me when I just read the text is if the criteria only relates to the mineral soil. Of course, the carbon stock must include the whole lot, but for example, for the base cations or pH or so, it's most likely it is the upper 30 centimeter of the mineral soil.
I was interested about the soil biodiversity, and you talked about the loss of it, and there's kind of depends on like which kingdom you're focusing on or which index you're using, and it depends on a lot of things, and it's thrown around in Iceland a lot, like we're going to protect biodiversity and all that stuff, and there's no explanation of it. Do you think we should be focusing more on community shifts maybe, or try to detect how communities in soil shift before there's like a total collapse in a community or something, and maybe trying to focus on that instead of putting a percentage number on?
Yeah. Since this is in this part without any formal criteria, I guess that's a fair interpretation. I think that you should monitor change in the soil biodiversity over time. So if you have a decline, you should not have a decline in soil biodiversity over time.
But, this is like in rural forests that we have in Quebec. Diversity is low and quite low, like for fungi, and if there's a disturbance, it's going to increase. So, I mean, then if you go back to a forest and it grows for many years, the biodiversity, if you talk about it like richness or something like that, it's going to go down. So it will go down, but it doesn't mean it's not healthy or whatever.
That's the same.
And I find it really like loss of biodiversity, the terminology of it.
That's the same in my data. The bacteria diversity goes down with birth succession. So you could argue that you're losing diversity of bacteria, but an old birch forest has likely has. Yeah.
Of course, you need to think about this on like a regional level. not on like a field or a stand level, because the reporting will be on this on these soil units.
Yeah.
Just a question on that, Johan.
We got a lot of noise again.
Yes, the problem is the mic.
Can I do
Yes.
It's very noisy. Maybe now.
So sorry about this. Is it okay now?
Yep.
Oh,
Good.
okay. Good. I don't know what's happening. The soil unit, I was wondering, are these polygons or it's grid-based?
I mean, as it is stated, you should start with polygons of the soil regions, but you should also account for land use classes. And of course, land use change can be on a very small scale. So as I understand it, I mean, for example, if you have this plot-based inventory that is going to be used, I mean, if you're in a certain soil region, but then you have like agricultural land and forest land, I mean, even though they are in the same polygon, they should be different soil units. Well, it must be like that. I mean, it's impossible to have map data that describes these shifts in both soil conditions and land use on this high detail level, I think. But I think that it refers to this 1 to 5 million scale map of soil regions that is a little bit concerning, because what Alexi showed, I mean, that was an obvious weakness. And one of the master's projects that was carried out this spring, actually with one of the proposed ones for the network, basically came to the same conclusion that it was not very useful to rely on those soil regions.
Yes, of course. I think we can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep. Good.
Yeah, maybe I'll go back then.
Just sit down. Relax.
Yeah, colleagues from Luke were interested if there would be kind of an interest of a joint effort when kind of looking at how many samples and what kind of regions we could have in order to fulfill the regulation, and kind of that relates to the planning of our soil inventories also, because like I showed them yesterday, some of the variables with those 3 regions that we had just artificially generated, some of them we could get with that 5% precision, but not all of them. And maybe, so that would be one thing that would be maybe to discuss later on today if there is an interest in doing something together. If many countries are doing that anyway, and they need to do it at some point anyway, so that would be probably quite informative. And then related to the kind of regional level soil biodiversity monitoring, I share the concern that if you have a kind of certain age class distribution within a region with your forest, and that is kind of shifting, and then you may have a situation where you kind of lose the biodiversity while they don't know what it has to do with the soil health, just kind of related to the age structure of your stands, which is kind of shifting because of the management or disturbances or some other reasons. For example, yeah, that's my comment.
Lisa?
When you scrolled through parts of the annex, Johan, Is it true that, for example, for soil carbon, that each country should set their own targets, or how is that to be understood? If you lose that much, you're in trouble, or something like that.
Yeah, I think they should be set by the countries, but it should be, so to say, you should get an okay from the Commission when it comes to your threshold.
But is there a lengthy description in the annex on how this sort of threshold is thought to be working? No?
No, it's not. So, I mean, there are still, it's much details to be, or practical details to be kind of figured out, I think.
I was just wondering, that would be one of many issues where it would be really nice to have discussions with people in the region on what are reasonable national thresholds to select.
Yeah.
Or targets, or whatever.
I guess this we will have the opportunity to come back to this, particularly in a few months when the final version is there. And also now it has been kind of silent, I think. I mean, when there were this alternative versions out, I mean, there's been a bit of discussion, but now over the last couple of months it is rather silent. So maybe once the decision is taken, that there will be more information material, because the directive text, I mean, it's there are some gaps. I mean, you have to fill in to interpret and so on when it comes to some things. Okay.
So this is probably something we have to have another meeting later on as well, when the final version is done, I guess. Isn't that correctly assumed?
Yeah.
So I actually think it's a very good idea from Luke and from Alexi to have some kind of a joint effort to decide and to find out what do we really need from our inventories and so on to fulfill this law, basically, to follow this law. So